We have a major update coming from Shams Charania indicating that Gregg Popovich will not return behind the Spurs bench this season and his future is in question with the Spurs organization. Just days after learning Wembanyama had a blood clot and will miss the rest of the season, we get this news dropped on us, and this does put the Spurs' future coaching situation into major question. We're going to talk about Gregg Popovich, go through a lot of what made him great, of course, what Shams had to say about the situation, and an outlook of the Spurs coaching situation moving forward, coming up on this episode of Spurs Digest. And Keenan, let's just get right into it. Let's just start with the big report. Boom, there it is. Shams Charania, San Antonio Spurs Hall of Fame coach Gregg Popovich is not expected to return this season, and his future is uncertain as he recovers from a mild stroke suffered in November. Now, his recovery seems to be going okay, but it seems like he's taking health as his priority. Keenan, what was your reaction when you first saw this? I mean, look, it's just brutal to have the Wemby news and this news back to back, and there still is some hope Pop can return next season, but as the days go by, it genuinely seems to be more and more questionable.
The news, when you hear this, we had actually a conversation about this in our group chat the other day of like the up and down of like Pop, because there was reports that okay, he's going to be coming back possibly towards the end of the season, and that was exciting. Obviously his health is number one, so we hope all the best for him. And I don't My response was, what are we going to do at coach? Because Mitch Johnson to me isn't the long-term answer.
Mhm.
As you see here, 22 and 27 under Mitch Johnson this season, and this is a team that's more than talented to get to above 500 to be within the play-in range. We are not there right now. I just think that we need to figure out what's going on with Pop, and I would honestly operate under the idea that Pop isn't gonna come back to the sideline.
Yeah, I mean, like, again, you just wish that this guy, the Coach Popovich, can come back. Because, like, I don't know Spurs basketball without him. This season feels like a fever dream in some ways, just like watching Mitch Johnson be the guy behind the bench. But yeah, I mean, reports are reports. We won't know probably until the offseason if he'll be back next year at all. But look, let's just take a quick look at what he's done good before we do a little bit of a deeper dive into what the Spurs could possibly do as they head towards, a fight for a play-in spot or a playoff spot this year. I mean, again, three-time coach of the year. Can't count. I mean, you could if you paused and had a look at this, count the amount of play, coach of the month, coach of the week, whatever, numbered in the 15 greatest coaches in NBA history. He's the winningest regular season coach ever. He has the third most wins in the playoffs ever, and of any coach with at least 10 seasons in the NBA, he has the sixth highest winning percentage. The only people above him, Pat Riley, Steve Kerr, Red Auerbach, Casey Jones, and Phil Jackson. Now, Keenan, I don't know, like, for you and for me, Spurs basketball is synonymous. Well, Gregg Popovich is synonymous with Spurs basketball, and I know that the Gregg Popovich tree spans far and wide across the NBA coaching sphere. If he does not come back to play, and we're talking about Mitch Johnson now, a lot of Spurs fans don't think he's that guy in line for the job. Do you see a world where another former, Spurs assistant or someone from under the Gregg Popovich coaching tree could come back and coach this team?
I do think so, because I believe that the Spurs are a team that like to keep their tradition, their tradition. And obviously the tradition was built really with Gregg Popovich. So a guy like Brett Brown could come back to this
Mm.
organization and do something. You want to know, you want a guy there that is going to inherit the great traits of what the Spurs do. Cross sport comparison, like when the New England Patriots hired Mike Vrabel,
Mm.
it made sense because you had a guy who was a Patriot, has the Bill Belichick kind of in him, but also has coaching outside, so he can kind of do a mixture of both. You want someone like that in the organization. I could see the Spurs kind of going back from their tree and trying to figure it out from there.
Yeah, like we have talks about, Mike Budenholzer's name gets thrown around. I mean, if he ever is to become available to the San Antonio Spurs, but there's so many other guys, like even a guy like Steve Kerr, former player too, is like, there's a million guys. Now, not guys that I think necessarily will become available, but the Spurs, like you mentioned, Keenan, are going to have to start looking into this because right now, like we heard on ABC just in that NBA countdown after Shams broke this report again and spoke a bit about it, he even had Kendrick Perkins saying something like, he believes Pop could come back. He thinks Pop would probably want to come back, but that's pure speculation from Kendrick Perkins because, like, basketball is Pop's life at this point. So we'll have to wait and see, but at the same time, the future is extremely bright for this team, and you need the right coach for the job, whether that is Pop or someone else. Like, we're looking at these standings right now, Keenan. Look, I know you made a video earlier today talking about how the Spurs need Stephon Gassel to play more because, look, we're all in agreement there. The 13 minutes. Look, anyway, don't want to get into that right now. However, the future is extremely bright for San Antonio, and beyond just speaking on the Spurs culture and their fit and the Spurs way of life, you want a guy who has that winning talent in him as well, someone who's maybe synonymous with winning. It's going to be so difficult to find a replacement for Pop. Though then again, like when it comes to the management team, right? We were used to RC Buford running the show so much now, but hey, Brian Wright's been in here. Stephon Castle is his big pick, and it's looking great so far. Change is possible. I've even heard names like Becky Hammond, but do you think it'll be like difficult? I imagine it will be difficult. Like, do you think the Spurs are just going to have to go all out this offseason, looking at every single candidate possible? Because, again, replacing a guy like Pop, no matter who it is, they're going to be under intense scrutiny, just like Mitch Johnson is this year. Yeah, this roster improved. We got like Fox now. You win one, you lose one in a back-to-back. No matter who fills in those shoes, they're going to get scrutinized. So you got to have a guy with tough skin. I mean, I'm starting to wonder how many people are even out there, and will the fan base even agree on this kind of coach to come in, especially with how bright this future looks and how much pressure is on the Spurs to win over the next year or two?
I think that there's got to be a coaching, and you have to be open to everything, because you're in a situation now that it could be a delicate situation that could go bad or good. We obviously have seen teams like the Thunder back when you had Kevin Durant, James Harden, Russell Westbrook. You're like, how are they not going to rattle off a couple championships? They rattle off none. They get to a finals, they get to a conference finals, and then they break up. So you don't want to be in a situation where you have Wemby, you have Fox, you've got Castle. You still have pieces like Vassell, Jeremy Sohan, and then not capitalize off of that with at least a couple championships. The over-under for Wemby championships, because he's all-time great potential, is like 2.5. Like, you really should get to at least 2 to 3 if you're that level of talent. And you don't want to mess up his early 20s, especially when he's on his youngest contract, before he's getting money on that. I honestly was just thinking through a guy. I believe he's still at Alabama right now. Avery Johnson.
Ooh, that's an
He's
interesting one. I think he's
I
still
was
in
gonna say,
college, right? College coaching?
I believe he's still coaching at Alabama, last I know. But ex-Spur, obviously coached the Mavs, got them to a finals. They lost to the Heat in 6. But a guy who's been with the organization, been a very good coach in the league, someone who is a champion, a proven guy too. Like, those are the type of guys where I'd be reaching out. Someone who has been there, done that with a team, and actually been to some finals, been to deep playoff runs.
That's actually a really interesting name. Now, I'm going to fact check this now, and I don't believe he's the coach anymore. So he stopped in 2019, apparently. So that was a while ago, but he does have that NBA. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that. I thought, I don't know. But I gotta be honest, I'm not a college basketball guy very much, as much as I maybe should be, especially this year with potentially having 2 lottery picks. I need to up myself. Yeah. I do know Rutgers has 2 good players, but they're not a great team. Anyway, but Avery Johnson is actually one of those very interesting names, but I think that's the kind of thing that we got to be talking about here, Keenan. Like, people who exhibit the Spurs, but also we don't want to be biased necessarily and taking a guy just because he was from this orbit. There's a lot of decisions the organization has to make, and I want you guys to leave your comments down below. First of all, leave some love for Coach Pop, because we always just wish him well. Hope he recovers well. Again, 76 years old. Recovering from a stroke is no joke. So hopefully he ends up healthy again. We'll have to see who fills his shoes if his time is up when it comes to coaching. So leave your thoughts down below. Who's going to replace him? Leave some love for him, but that'll do it for this episode of Spurs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Thank you all for watching. As always, I'm Josh Gosse, my host, Keenan Warner. We'll catch you in the next one.